started, Master? Begin.
Let's go.
Okay.
So we're working on identifying essential security practices. Those practices that can be done by anyone with available resources. They're about point eight effective, but they complement one another in a system of layered defenses. Those that we should do before we consider more expensive measures. Last week we treated user and management awareness training, formal risk acceptance, explicit assignment of roles and responsibilities, supervision, unique user identifiers, strong passwords, personal firewalls, antivirus, and encrypted backup. Let's begin this week with a practice that is clearly on the list and often overlooked. That is timeout to a lock-word protected screensaver. The lock-word need only be long enough to resist a guessing attack lasting minutes to tens of minutes. This simple measure greatly reduces risk on machines in public or employee-only spaces. It does not impose a burden, even in secure spaces. It is an option on most popular operating systems. However, the control is not always easy to find. For example, on Windows 7, it is under personalization. In Mac OS X, it is the second option in system preferences, a little bit more obvious. Another that is not quite so obvious is end-to-end encryption. By end-to-end, I mean client to server. I'm going to argue that anyone can do it, and thanks to Netscape and Cisco Linksys, with available resources. Yes, SSL, SSH, and IPsec are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Support is included in most products. All remote desktop servers included. It is the essence of virtual private networks. VPNs and virtual local area networks, VLANs. If a server does not support one of these, one need only put a proxy in front of it. A related practice is to terminate VPNs on the application, not on the perimeter, and not on the operating system. On the client side, the VPN is hidden under the application name or icon. All I have to do is select it, and I've invoked the VPN. On the server side, the application hides network and operating system vulnerabilities from the client, and the encryption hides application vulnerabilities from all but authenticated users. The encryption hides the client from network users. By policy and practice, store sensitive data, including books of account, payment card information, personally identifiable information, and intellectual property, that is PCI, PII, and IP, on enterprise servers. Store them only on enterprise servers. Resist with policy and controls the creation of arbitrary copies on desktops and portable devices. Yeah, I know. The users claim that they need those copies in order to get their jobs done. However, that's really a service level issue. Provided they had a high enough level of access, they probably wouldn't care about making the local copies. Given the speed and coverage of modern networks, this is clearly less necessary than it was last year and will be even less so next year. Prefer application-only access to data. The need to look up an associate's email address or phone number should not confer the privilege to copy the entire directory. Let's close this week with access control. Note that if the sensitive data is on the servers, then that is where the control ought to be. First, there will be fewer control points, and that will reduce administration effort. Perhaps more important, access controls on the servers are much more reliable, more resistant to bypass than those on the clients. As with all controls, there will be exceptions to these rules. But the exceptions should be manageable, and we ought to be managing them down in both scope and number. Now, I understand that anyone can do things with available resources does not necessarily equate to easy. Depending upon the size of the enterprise and the style of its management, instituting even essential practices can still be very difficult. That is why we are called professionals and are paid the big bucks. Next week, we're going to wrap up essential practices and sort of recap what we've tried to convey in these 3 presentations. See you then.
All right, Bill. Thank you once again, and we certainly appreciate it. You know, school is never out permanently, huh? It's
Never
always
out.
no.
We always got to go back to basics from time to time.
You know, and you know, it's hard kind of communicating to that. You know, I don't know if you're aware. I've got young kids, and you know, they're always anxious to get out of college, get out of high school, and all this kind of stuff. And I said, you know, don't be in such a rush because the learning never really ends. You know, you keep learning no matter how old you are in life. And you know, they said, "Oh, Dad, you got to be kidding me." And I said, "No." I said, "This is true. You constantly are learning in life." And we thank you for, you know, imparting your knowledge with us so that we can keep that learning moving. All right. Thank you very much, Bill. We'll see you next week. All right, everybody.